Welcome back to Fantasy Sports. Today, pitchers going down once again, another season where it just feels like we're going to be dealing with this again. Every year it's more and more. Joe, it is an epidemic in baseball. They got to solve this thing. I do believe that, maybe call me crazy, but I do believe that we're going to turn the corner on velocity and go in a different direction in the future. I really do believe that. I think that that's coming. But for now, it's still about all throwing as hard as you can. I don't know that affects Pablo Lopez, but this is a very big injury for the Minnesota Twins. Pablo has been really healthy the last few years, not an arm injury, a lower leg injury for him. And this is a guy that really keeps himself in shape, too. So this caught me by surprise. Wyatt Langford, that's a tough one with an oblique. You know that's not a 2-week injury, Joe. That's going to be a month.
Nope.
This is a shocker. Justin Steele. Oh, no. My gosh, he looked so good, and he's looked good now for a year. He's on the 15-day IL. So is Jackson Merrill. And then Matt McClain, I know he'd been struggling through some injuries too. He's going to miss some time, but you can sub somebody in for him in the lineup. But there's like no replacing Merrill and Steele. And I'm going to guess they'll be careful with Pablo as well. I don't feel like any of these are 10-day injuries, though. That's the thing that's really troubling here.
I think McClain might be. I heard Terry Francona speaking about him, and they were hoping that he was going to play in the last series too, and they were kind of waiting and trying to figure that out. But eventually, it didn't happen, so they just decided let's be safe rather than sorry. I mentioned Chase Meidroth, right, from the White Sox. He just got called up. There's a guy you could patch in there for a little while. IKF is playing pretty well right now. Maybe ride that wave till McClain comes back. So there's some options out there at the shortstop position where you could probably just get some decent play. In the meantime, McKinstry for Detroit plays all over the place. He's got a homer and 8 RBI so far, hitting 350. So to play the hot hand with McClain, but I expect him to be back because that was a retroactive IL stint anyway. Mm-hmm. Jackson Merrill, the hamstring, again, you're going to be a little bit more careful here with this one. This is your premium player. So I think with Jackson Merrill, you're looking at when he's ready is when we'll let him be back and not a moment before. They dodged the bullet with Tatis too. That Tatis swing, I don't know about you, but my heart went into my throat when I saw him because I've got Tatis investments. That swing did not look good, but the swing yesterday looked good because he went yard. So I guess it wasn't that big of a deal, but I'm going to be holding my breath for another 150 games or whatever is left here because at any moment, can that happen again to Fernando Tatis? And is it more serious? Because he did have surgery on that shoulder. But Jackson Merrill, hopefully we're looking at a couple weeks for him and then he'll return. A tough one to replace. You mentioned Justin Steele. Now, some of the Steele injuries over the years have not been arm related. He did have some tendonitis in the elbow last year, cost him the end of the season. Now it's back again. So far, no structural damage or issues. He's getting a second opinion, so hopefully it comes back with just rest and rehab. But it is troubling, and I think a huge blow to that Cubs rotation as well, because the Cubs have designs on winning that division. Can they do that without Justin Steele? I'm skeptical that they can, despite the fact we went through that Brewers rotation, and it looks pretty bad on paper. Reinforcements are coming. I don't know where the Cubs reinforcements are coming from. Wyatt Langford, you're 100% right. Anytime somebody has this oblique issue, and the amount of oblique issues that we've had in the major leagues in the opening of seasons for the last 5 years is absurd. That's the study I want. My question is, does it have to do with launch angle? Does it have to do with these guys tweaking and turning that side, trying to get this extra launch angle? And is that what's happening to these guys? Because I know they work out these areas so much, trying to get stronger in their core. Is it leading to these oblique issues? That is the big question I have, because if you look at the oblique injury rise and the launch angle rise, they coincide. It's the same exact line on the graph. That is the one that's interesting to me. Pablo Lopez, I think the solace is it's not an arm injury. So that is a good thing. So Pablo Lopez, hopefully we're looking at 2 to 3 weeks maybe for him to heal up. Probably need a rehab assignment start. So it's going to be a little while. They brought up David Festa, who after 2 starts last year was terrible, was really good the rest of the time, struggled in the spring. Zebby Matthews has been terrific. So the Twins have some options there. They went with Festa first. That's not surprising. But don't be shocked if Zebby Matthews doesn't make an appearance sooner than later, and that's somebody to pick up in fantasy circles and stash him now, just in case. People might be running to the waiver wire to get Festa, but I think Zebby Matthews might be the guy that ends up sticking longer in that rotation for the Twins. But what do you think about the launch angle and the oblique injuries? Do you think that I'm onto something here, or am I wearing a tinfoil hat?
I mean, it is possible. I think it's more likely, Joe, that these guys are just spending a lot more time in the weight room, and more muscle mass means more potential for injuries. That's sort of the way that I view it from what I see and hear around the league. But not impossible, and a lot of theories are possible as well. But I think the oblique injuries this year, to me, not any more than last year. For me, it is the pitching that every year it's more and more pitchers going down with arm injuries or shoulder injuries, and that's the case too with the Dodgers. They went out this offseason and fortified their rotation and sort of doubled down on getting deeper with Blake Snell. There's going to be no rush to bring him back. He's out with a shoulder issue. So, I mean, with the way Yamamoto was going and eventually Sasaki and Dustin May, I mean, the Dodgers are just not going to play around. They want Snell to be around in the second half of the season. So I don't know what his first half's going to look like. Tony Gonsolin will come back eventually from his back issue. Kershaw, we list him here. We both know that this is a show up for the postseason situation if you can. You're not going to pick him up in fantasy. Gavin Stone with a shoulder. And then Shohei Ohtani will come back and he'll pitch at some point this season. I don't know when that's going to be either. But, Joe, they do this in the NBA as well. They play the load management game. The Dodgers can play that game as long as they're getting in the playoffs. So it was a lot of fun taking Dodgers in fantasy at the beginning of the season, thinking they're on such a great team and everything's going to be amazing. And then you wake up and realize they don't care. Just check back at the end of the year, make sure they're in. And I think that was the dynamic that maybe some people didn't factor in. And I do think they're going to take their sweet time with these players.
Yeah, unfortunately, I tend to agree with you. They are going to take their sweet time, and why not? Although they do need to be careful because clearly that division didn't get the memo that they're supposed to lay down and die for the Dodgers, because the Padres are playing well, the Giants are playing well, the Diamondbacks are competitive. So this is not the easiest division, okay? They're not playing in the National League Central or the American League Central where they can just ho-hum their way to 95 wins. They're going to have to work for it. Now, Blake Snell, that's a disappointing one for me because I had some shares for him to win Cy Young. I thought this was a great situation that even if they had a six-man rotation, he could still win 20 games. That's how good I thought the Dodgers were. But you're right. It's about load management. People will pick up Clayton Kershaw. Mark my words. You'll see it. The name brand value of Clayton Kershaw, they will pick him up. They will be disappointed. But if you look at the rest of this rotation, when you get Ohtani back, we don't know. Yamamoto's pitched well. Glasnow struggled mightily last weekend, but he was so uncomfortable in that weather and on that mound. I'm not going to take too much out of that. I'm just happy he didn't come away with an injury. Tyler Glasnow also going, what is this, April? I'm pitching in April? This is not what I do. Usually I stroll in about June and then I leave at about, I don't know, the end of August, and that's kind of my season. So it's a little weird for Tyler Glasnow. He's going to have to adjust to actually trying to pitch for 6 whole months. We'll see how that goes for him.
Yeah, agreed. Meanwhile, Spencer Strider has been pitching very well in his rehab assignments with the Atlanta Braves. We touched on that earlier in the show. And look, you just never know how a pitcher is going to perform after missing so much time. And we would assume that Strider is going to be a 4 or 5 inning pitcher, probably for a month, and going to be on some sort of innings limit. That's definitely the case. But with the nature of all these injuries in fantasy, who are we to say to not have this guy immediately in your lineup when he comes back? I mean, so many. I mean, Steele and Pablo and all these pitchers going down. It's next man up and healthy man up at this point.
No, you have no choice. You're absolutely starting him without a doubt. And if that's what the 5-inning start looks like, you can sign me up. Take a look at this 5-inning start, Craig. 13 strikeouts, 3 hits. Sure. Okay, maybe only 9 strikeouts in the next one. Okay, somehow my heart will go on. But Spencer Strider is in a great spot here, and he's one of the best strikeout pitchers in baseball. So if he's back, you're immediately getting him back into that lineup. And it could be as early as Wednesday. That's what some of the reports are. So we'll see how that goes.
All right, coming up next, it is time for us to preview all of the games this weekend in fantasy baseball and all of the series as well. We'll do Tigers, Twins, Phillies, Cardinals, and Giants, Yankees coming up next. For those of you streaming our coverage all weekend long of the Masters, baseball, hockey, and basketball, just download the Sports app. You can take out your phone, whether it's an iPhone or Android, and download our app via that QR code. The SportsGrid app, retooled, reinvented, and we'll be right back with more fantasy sports today. Next.
you know, sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups. My tip? Try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
They won the game, and a lot of people, I think, are, prematurely writing them off. Like, I heard a lot of people say they're not even making the playoffs this year.
What I give them credit for right now, Scott, I'm not going to pencil them to win the division yet. Let's see how they do. What I give the Red Sox credit for, and this sounds like silly, I give them credit for actually trying this year.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Okay, what tools can you use to measure those things a bit? And that's where you have like force plates and 3D motion and launch monitors, things like that. But that's all just sort of like measuring what's happening. That doesn't necessarily explain why one guy's really good and another guy's not really good. And that's where there's still kind of like this ongoing, how do you like continue to do research to understand that better? And I think that's going to last well past my lifetime.
The Smiley Show.
All right, let's take a look at the weekend games in baseball, and we'll start off with the American League Central matchup. It is this afternoon, Jackson Joe for the Tigers, who was so good in spring training. We'll see if he can get it going in the big leagues. Chris Paddock, yes, that same Chris Paddock for the Minnesota Twins. And then on Sunday, it's Casey Mize versus Simeon Woods Richardson. So not the sexiest matchups of all. Both these teams are sort of offensively challenged, to say the least. Eventually, the Twins' offense will get better. They'll get Royce Lewis. Well, maybe they'll get Royce Lewis back. I don't know. But
for a couple hours.
Honestly, you never know.
Yeah.
So what do you make of these matchups this weekend? I still am high on Job. I do think he'll get it going, but it is a rookie pitcher. It is the big leagues, and so you never really do truly know.
See these guys, Chris Paddock, Simeon Woods Richardson? This is why I keep telling everybody to stash Zebby Matthews right now for $1, because you can absolutely do that. And he's going to be up sooner than later. So David Festa, Zebby Matthews, those are the guys. Simeon Woods Richardson right now, have we all looked at the ERA? It's 5.59. He's got a 1.86 whip. He's got 13 hits in 9 innings. I'm running away from him. And Casey Mize on the other side has been brilliant. And if you watched FST last Sunday, he was one of the 2-star pitchers we talked about adding. And the reason being, he was going to cost you very little if he was still available out there on the waiver wire. The best case scenario was he was really good in that first start against the Yankees. And guess what? He was. And now he's got a good start against the Twins. So now it's just bonus time for you for Casey Mize. And the worst case scenario was him being really good in those 2 starts and then you having to pay 3 times the amount on the waiver wire for him. So if you watched FST with Craig Mish or with me, Joe Pisapia, on Sunday, hopefully you had Casey Mize already locked and loaded into your lineups. And that's the only guy of these 4 that I'm touching. Jackson Jobe is still work in progress. So I'm going to speculate on young Twins pitchers still on their way and play the long game there, but I'm going to play the short game with Casey Mize.
All right, Phillies at the Cardinals. Boy, Phillies got some juicy matchups for these games this weekend. We got Christopher Sanchez against Miles Michaels. Miles Michaels debuted back in 2012 with the San Diego Padres and has had a fantastic Major League Baseball career. Any player who pitches this long in baseball and survives that long has got to be given a lot of credit, but oh my gosh, 11 ERA this year going into the game against Philly. I want to say that because I know how hard it is to get to the big leagues, and everyone's crapping all over Michaelis, and I understand it. Things do come to an end eventually. This is a tough one. And then on Sunday, it's Zach Wheeler time against the Cardinals too. Matthew Liberatore there. So Yeah, I mean, I would assume the Phillies pour some things on the Cardinals this weekend, but again, the Cardinals shut them down last night, so who knows?
Look, I'll take my chances here and play the law of averages with the Phillies guys. Sanchez has been very solid. He's got a 4 ERA, but 16 strikeouts, there's 3 walks. Wheeler is great under the last outing. He got beat around. It was an outing against Chris Sale. It was Sale and Wheeler, and the total for that game was 7. And I thought I was the smartest man on the planet going, I'm going to take the under on this one. This feels like a pitcher's duel all the way. They hit the over in the 3rd inning. It was very disappointing, very depressing. But anyway, we'll bounce back here. The Cardinals are not good. Offensively, they've got some players. Victor Scott, Jordan Walker, they seem like guys figuring it out. Finally, they're in that rebuild. They should trade Sonny Gray and see what else they can bring in. But this is a organization that is bereft of young pitching talent outside of Quinn Matthews, who I think is going to be terrific. So they need more arms. They need them fast. So Quinn Matthews, another guy. If you don't have him rostered in deep leagues, it's a mistake. He should be to the big leagues sooner than later. But I'm heavily favoring the Phillies this weekend, just like Vegas is.
Yeah, as I've said, I think the Cardinals are going to look vastly different in a couple of months than they do right now with Chaim Bloom getting ready to take over that team. I cannot imagine anybody is safe on that team. All right, the Yankees, playing back at home. I mean, maybe it's time to get going again. I mean, the first week of the season, you would have thought this is the best Yankees team ever. They're kind of up against it here. I mean, Jordan Hicks of the Giants, not a bad 5-inning pitcher. Logan Webb, Carlos Rodon. Rodon not good the last time out. So, look, we'll see how this goes. I think there'll be a lot of eyes on this series this weekend. Giants don't play the Yankees that often, of course, because they do play interleague, but they don't visit the Bronx all that often. I think it's the first time in 4 or 5 years. So we'll see what happens with the series playing out. But I think Sunday is probably the more key matchup. The Yankees are going to want to see Rodon pitch better.
I think you're being kind. Rodon's had 2 bad outings. That ERA is well above 5 right now. So we'll see what happens. The strikeouts have been there. The walks have been too many so far. So he needs to get back on track. But not some great weather today. Another rainy, crappy day out there. So Hicks is more of a 5-inning starter. Will Warren, patchwork. Carlos Rodon needs to get right here. But again, Sunday matchup, that's a tough one. Logan Webb is very good. That ballpark is still a Little League field. So, of course, anything can happen. But Rodon really needs to step in that void. Fried's been great in that stead for Garrett Cole's not there anymore. But they need more than him.
I do. All right. Mets at the A's this weekend. The A's haven't announced a starter today, but David Peterson will start for New York. And then on Sunday, it's Kodai Senga against Luis Severino. I expect the Mets to score a lot of runs, Joe. Will the A's be able to do this on the Mets pitchers?
If you're looking at the ERAs, no. Mets are the best team ERA in baseball, best bullpen ERA in baseball, too. I'm still worried about Edwin Diaz. He has not looked like the same pitcher since he hurt his knee in the WBC. I think they need to get some more relief help, and don't be shocked if they don't go out there and do it. But yes, Peterson's solid. Senga, when that ghost fork is really working, and it was that last start as he continued on, I think a very good start for him. And I think the Mets are very happy to get out of cold New York and get to Sacramento.
It's cold there too, Joe. Got news for you. It's in the 50s.
Not as cold as New York. I can tell you that this morning.
It's freezing. I don't know. Check that. You know what? Check that, Sam. Oh, no, I saw it was snowing there. Yeah, you're right. It can't be. Yeah.
It's cold. It's cold and it's raining here.
Cold, but check Sacramento too. Check Sacramento's weather right now.
60. Ooh.
I think it's in the 50s there. I'm going to guess. All right, Blue Jays at the Orioles. My gosh, are we really here already in this season? Orioles have Cade Povich and then a TBD on Sunday. Jose Barrios starts for Toronto. Easton Lucas was good, right? Last time out, I don't know. Maybe they're on to something here with him.
Yes, he was pretty good. Here's the bigger problem. In the injury list we just did in the last segment, we missed Zach Eflin, right? With a lat strain. We know that's going to be a long time. When you go into the season with Zach Eflin being your number 1 starter, you are asking for problems. And Grayson Rodriguez is a great young talent, but it was too much to put on a kid who's never thrown 185 innings, 190 innings of the season. And now you're looking at Dean Creamer. You're looking at Charlie Morton, Cade Povich, Sagano. This is a hot mess for the Orioles. And I keep harping on it because it's true, and they dropped the ball this offseason. I'm done.
All right. We'll do.
All right.
Joe's very upset.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip, try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
They won the game, and a lot of people, I think, are, prematurely writing them off. Like, I heard a lot of people say they're not even making the playoffs this year.
What I give them credit for right now, Scott, I'm not going to pencil them to win the division yet. Let's see how they do. What I give the Red Sox credit for, and this sounds like silly, I give them credit for actually trying this year.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Okay, what tools can you use to measure those things a bit? And that's where you have like force plates and 3D motion and launch monitors, things like that. But that's all just sort of like measuring what's happening. That doesn't necessarily explain why one guy's really good and another guy's not really good. And that's where there's still kind of like this ongoing, how do you like continue to do research to understand that better? And I think that's going to last well past my lifetime.
The Smiley Show.
We're going to get Gray Albright on from Razzball to check in on the week of fantasy baseball. Let's continue our previews this weekend. We'll do Braves and Rays. Braves playing at Steinbrenner Field this weekend against Tampa Bay. Here are the matchups. Saturday, A.J. Smith-Sharp back into the rotation for Atlanta against Drew Rasmussen. And then Sunday is the premium matchup here, without a doubt, Joe. Chris Sale, Shane Baz. And it is a Sunday early game, so again, a lot of swinging early, getting out of town type thing. So I think that may be one of the best matchups of all in baseball this weekend.
Yeah, look, you're obviously starting Chris Sale. Shane Baz is a ERA around 1, so they're definitely starting. I think Rasmussen actually is a guy that is a spot starter in this one too. So if you're on the fence or you're looking for somebody to stream, Rasmussen against Schmidt-Shawver actually is a pretty good one.
Red Sox and White Sox, Richard Fitz, Martin Perez, and then Sunday, Garrett Crochet, he's good. Shane Smith of the White Sox. Okay, so we've reached an hour, 25 minutes in the show where I've said a name for the first time in my life here on Fantasy Sports Today. Shane Smith, Joe.
There you go. I'd be paying attention to Garrett Crochet. I know the ERA has been really good. It's at 1.45, but he hasn't looked 100% comfortable, and the velocity is not where it was last year. I will say last April, he had a slow start too, 5 ERA. And I'm calling it a slow start only because he just does not look exactly as dominant as the last time we saw him. I'm not concerned. I'm not worried. It's a great start for him. So you want a big Garrett Crochet double-digit K performance here against his old team. That's what you're looking for. That'll make everybody that made big-time investments in him feel much better.
Saturday in Miami, I'll be on the broadcast before the game, Nationals-Marlins. So I'll leave here and go do that today. Trevor Williams takes on Sandy Alcantara. Sandy was on the paternity list, back starting today. And then Sunday, Miami has their hands full. Mackenzie Gore has been one of the best pitchers in baseball. Really impressed there. He'll take on Cal Quantrill, Joe.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Mackenzie Gore has been absolutely brilliant. The strikeout rate has ticked up. He was one of my favorite pitchers in terms of value going into the season. A guy going outside the top 200 ADP. And now, as you mentioned, looking as a Cy Young candidate. Great to see Sandy Alcantara making his return too. Sandy on the paternity list last week. Unfortunately, that rain out, that last game kind of cost me a matchup last week. So I'm still a little worried about that, a little frustrated about that one, but it's only April, so I'm going to shake it off. And congratulations to the Alcantara family with the new addition. It's all forgiven, and we're moving on. We're on to this weekend.
Good to hear it. All right. Royals and Guardians, Michael Lorenzen against Luis Ortiz. Ortiz has had a tough time at the start of the season for Cleveland. Cole Reagans, the ace of the Royals, goes against Ben Lively. Joe.
Yeah, look, Cole Reagans, last time we saw him, 11 strikeouts, great performance from Cole Reagans. So I would be looking for him, again. So far, you look at the Cleveland Guardians, Kwan's gotten off to a good start here. That we'd like to see, maybe Jose Ramirez start to tick things up a notch as well. But Manzardo, also with the power, has been pretty decent. Cleveland so far is just kind of scuffling along a little bit. So we're looking for that hot streak from Jose Ramirez here and a little bit of help, I think, somewhere else. Unfortunately, the bottom of that order hasn't given them much. They made that trade for Nolan Jones. That hasn't worked out. He's hitting $161. So the Guardians need some more offensive help. Hopefully they get it soon. It was also good to see Gavin Williams turn things around this week, too. That was another potential buy low.
All right, we got Pirates and Reds. Probably runs at a premium, I would guess, in this series. I believe is this the season debut for Andrew Abbott? I think so. Against Andrew Heaney on Saturday. That's today. Carmen Mlodzinski starts for Pittsburgh. He is up against it going against Hunter Green.
Is that the first time you said Mlodzinski? I'm just curious.
I've said his name previously.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
That seems like a hard.
The next guy, by the way, for Houston, I've never said his name.
Oh, well, I can't wait to get to that. There's nothing to see here except Hunter Green, folks. Hunter Green's been great. Bet the over on the K prop. I'm sure it's going to be 7.5 or 8.5. I'd still go over with Pittsburgh.
Okay. Angels and Astros. This is a new name, too. Tyler Anderson against Ryan Gusto, who I do know because he pitched in the spring here in Palm Beach, so I am familiar. But he's today. Hayden Wesneski also looked good for Houston in the spring. By Kyle Hendricks, I think, pitched really well for the Angels last time out.
Yeah, Wesneski is actually a guy that is still floating around in a lot more leagues than you realize. And with Spencer Arrighetti on the IL for 6 weeks with that broken hand, he's available in about 60% of leagues right now. So Wesneski is probably going to stick in that rotation for better or worse. This is another streamer that you could probably make some money with. Also, consider that he's qualifies at RP. So when you're in those mandatory RP leagues, he's also got some flexibility in there as well for fantasy.
All right, 4 really good pitchers this weekend in Arizona. Chad Patrick's done a great job for Milwaukee. Goes against Burns. Freddie Peralta against Zach Gallen.
Yeah, Freddie Peralta. I'll tell you what, Corbin and Gallen need to find some consistency here. Gallen's been very up and down. Corbin Burns' ERA is approaching 6. His xERA, his FIP, all not good. This is a big start for the Diamondbacks' Corbin Burns this weekend.
We'll be right back.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip? Try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
They won the game, and a lot of people, I think, are, prematurely writing them off. Like, I heard a lot of people say they're not even making the playoffs this year.
But I give them credit for right now, Scott. I'm not going to pencil them to win the division yet. Let's see how they do. What I give the Red Sox credit for, and this sounds like silly, I give them credit for actually trying this year.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Okay, what tools can you use to measure those things a bit? And that's where you have like force plates and 3D motion and launch monitors, things like that. But that's all just sort of like measuring what's happening. That doesn't necessarily explain why one guy's really good and another guy's not really good. And that's where there's still kind of like this ongoing, how do you like continue to do research to understand that better? And I think that's going to last well past my lifetime.
The Smiley Show.
All right, welcome back, Fantasy Sports Today here on SportsGrid. Craig Mish, Joe Pisapia filling in for George Kurtz. And today we have Gray Albright back of Razzball to dive into the latest in fantasy baseball. Gray waking up with us in the early morning out in California. Gray, I said it was, I made the prediction that it was just as cold in Sacramento today that it would be in New York. I didn't realize it was snowing, though, in New York. So bad call by me.
It's raining. It's not quite snow. It's misery, though. It's 40 degrees. We haven't seen the sun in 2 straight days. And it's going to be 70 degrees, I think, at game time for the Mets and the Athletics today. So, yeah, it's worse. It's worse here.
You know what it's actually in Sacramento. It's raining home runs, huh?
There you go.
There it is.
There's
the truth.
No, seriously. Someone in the preseason, I was talking to minor league people about Sacramento's stadium. Is it Bing Bong Stadium? That's what I call it. I don't know what it's called. Anyway, I was talking to someone who's a minor league guy, and I was like, how's the stadium going to play? And he's like, oh, it's going to play probably the same as Oakland. And I was like, really? Because it seems a lot smaller. And he's like, no, it's the same dimensions. And I was like, okay, I am not going to listen to you. And I'm going to draft a bunch of A's players because I think it's going to play offensive. And I was proven right, man. The ball flies out of there, and like when it heats up in the summer in Sacramento, it's gonna get crazy. I feel like if you can go out and acquire like JJ Bleday or Soderstrom or anyone you can get over there in Sacramento, I like them for hit. Like Brent Rooker is going to have an incredible summer. I'm all in on A's this year. I think the stadium is going to play offensive going forward, even more so when it heats up.
Yeah, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that stadium is the second highest elevation in the history of Major League Baseball outside of Colorado. So that would make sense if that indeed is the case. All right, so that being said, we're watching Mike Trout take down the A's. Gray, would you trade Trout right now in a fantasy league? Would you get out of it and say, I'm not buying 2017 here. He's got 6 home runs already. Let me dump. Would you do that?
Yeah, actually, I have a Magic 8-ball, and it says Mike Trout's going to be injured after his 14th home run. So you have roughly a week and a half. I kid, but I do think Mike Trout is like if history is what can predict the future. I mean, you do see the injuries just like every year just pile up. It's impossible to expect more than, I want to say 80 games. It'll be a good 80 to 100 games maybe, but it's not really like you're not going to get a full season. So you're probably looking at maybe roughly, I don't know, 27 to 32 homers, a 260, 265 average, maybe 65 runs and RBIs. It's fine. It's not terrible, but you just can't expect a full season. If for a prorated small sample size type season, like an 85 game season, it's going to be good. If you can, in a shallower league where you can get a guy off of waivers and not have to worry about, whether or not you can replace Mike Trout, then I would acquire him in a league like that. But in a deeper league where you go to waivers and you see nothing, then in that league, you're going to have a harder time replacing Mike Trout. So he becomes a little bit less valuable there. But yeah, I think at this point you understand what you're getting,
Gray, earlier this week, we saw Fernando Tatis Jr. take a swing, and collectively we all took a sigh because it did not look like it was a very easy experience for him. There was immediate pain, and then immediately he was, it's a surgically repaired shoulder. It's going to be day-to-day. We hope we get him back in a couple days. Now, he actually did come back yesterday and hit a home run. So it was all well now with Fernando Tatis Jr., or should everybody be a little concerned about him going forward too? He got off to a great start. This was starting to feel like, wow, could we get a full great season for Fernando Tatis without any nonsense? And sure enough, there was a little bit of nonsense right as we started to think that. So where are you at with that panic button when it comes to Fernando Tatis?
Yeah, that's a good question. I have a harder time with Tatis than I do with Trout predicting whether or not he's going to be injured. It's hard to say. We have had a lot of partial seasons from Tatis. One was, his, the PEDS suspension. Another was, because of his motorcycle riding wasn't up to snuff, I guess. I like Tatis a lot. He's so exciting. I do think the Padres seem like they're running a lot more this year. Like Machado, I think, has like 6 steals already, which is, roughly a 60 steal pace from Manny Machado, which obviously that won't continue, but I mean, that's nice. But back to your question with Tatis, it's really a difficult one. I don't know. I don't know what to expect. I would say, if you have him, I guess you ride it out unless someone's willing to pay draft day price, which was roughly, in the top 12 overall and, in a 12-team league, say like $35 on an auction. So, yeah, I mean, you're probably not going to get I don't think you're going to get draft day price again. So I would be probably looking to hold, and you just hope you get like a full season.
Gray, back when you and I were sitting together at drafts, in the NL and Tout Wars, and, we would be fighting over these Rockies, like we didn't know what to expect, but we knew that we had to get a couple Rockies on the roster. What has happened here in the past, let's say 5 to 7 years where, Brenton Doyle is still a good Rocky, and, Tovar in the end is going to have a good season. We know that. I see this guy, Kyle Farmer, who's bounced around the league, is off to a really good start. But, I mean, do you remember those days, Gray, where we would, take those shots for $1 or $2 on these Rockies, and then somebody would inevitably have a huge year offensively? It feels like they've regressed to the fact that just like every other baseball team now, there's, no advantage of playing there for them.
Yeah, I'm still living off of the one good season Josh Rutledge had in Colorado.
I remember that.
I feel like the Rockies are just a really poorly run team. I don't think they're kind of like they're just not well run. So it's like if you can't, I think the Suns owner is the top guy in the scouting department. I don't know. It's just not, I just don't trust them anymore. I think if you have natural ability, you're going to be fine. Like we see with Brenton Doyle, he's just naturally fast and he has good power. So for fantasy, he's great. But then you go, a little bit, if you get a guy who has like Zach Veen, who I do think has great tools and I'm excited to see, but he does strike out a lot. And if there's no coaches there telling a guy how to, hit the ball, then I don't know, man. It's not great. Like the Rockies used to be, like you said, like they used to have these great, under the radar players. And it was just like because of Coors. I feel like that is now, right now, if you're looking for that, to the A's, like I mentioned earlier, JJ Bleday, Lawrence Butler looks great. Soderstrom looks great. Brent Rooker. I would be focused on the A's right now because of Sacramento and how good that stadium is playing. And I'd kind of move away from the Rockies a little bit where other than Brenton Doyle, and I like Goodman because he plays a lot, but he's been kind of maybe a top 12 catcher. It hasn't been amazing. It's been fine.
Yeah. Tovar too, I think.
Yeah. Tovar.
All right, I know we got 30 seconds left. Panic meter on Jacob deGrom after yesterday's start. 1 through 5, 5 being panic. Where are you at, Gray?
I'm probably at 4.6.
Okay, 4.6, Greg.
Yeah.
Right. The house shakes at a 4.6, but it's not, it's not that. Thanks, Greg.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups. My tip? Try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
They won the game, and a lot of people, I think, are, prematurely writing them off. Like, I heard a lot of people say they're not even making the playoffs this year.
What I give them credit for right now, Scott, I'm not going to pencil them to win the division yet. Let's see how they do. What I give the Red Sox credit for, and this sounds like silly, I give them credit for actually trying this year.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Okay, what tools can you use to measure those things a bit? And that's where you have like force plates and 3D motion and launch monitors, things like that. But that's all just sort of like measuring what's happening. That doesn't necessarily explain why one guy's really good and another guy's not really good. And that's where there's still kind of like this ongoing, how do you like continue to do research to understand that better? And I think that's going to last well past my lifetime.
The Smiley Show.
All right, welcome back to Fantasy Sports today. We definitely appreciate Joe filling in for George Kurtz here today. So he's going to play the game that we normally play here on the show, a little true or false Q&A. We play a little game of buy or sell. One of the surprisingly good starts in baseball this season has come from Ron Washington's Los Angeles Angels. You have Mike Trout, although his batting average is very low. Home runs more than anybody else in baseball right now, and they've gotten some nice young prospects, players called up, playing well as well. Joe, buy or sell? The LA Angels will finish the season in third place or better this season in the NL West. Buy or sell?
Oh, this is tricky, right? Because everyone's hitting home runs all over the place. We talked about that Oakland, Sacramento. Not the Oakland, the Athletics, just Athletics ballpark. I want to get a little bit more information about the Steinbrenner Field too, because I know the Rays don't hit any home runs there, but it seems like their opponents are hitting a crap ton. So I want to know a little bit more about that one. But I don't think the Angels can keep this up. Soriano's been really good. I want to throw that out there, give him some credit. Trout's been terrific. Kyron Paris has been wonderful to start the year. But what I'm looking at is the rotation of the Mariners over a long period of time, eventually winning out. I know the Houston Astros are not the juggernaut team they used to be, but I imagine they will piece things together and continue to figure it out as they are different. When you lose Kyle Tucker and you lose Alex Bregman, two pieces you've had for a long time, I think that it takes a while to adjust and some other people need to step into those roles. And then the Texas Rangers who, although I am not holding my breath for Jacob deGrom to be great, I still think that lineup is very good. So if the Athletics are plucky, I don't think the Angels can hang on. But it's been a nice start to the year, and Ron Washington is a great manager, so I'm not surprised that he's getting these guys to play hard, at least in the early going. But I'm going to sell this one. I don't think the Angels can hang on in this division.
Okay, I am going to play that card as well, sell. I don't believe in the Angels at all. I think there's a chance that the A's are better, but when the players that they signed this offseason just kind of felt like we got to spend some money, and I wasn't really sure if that's going to. I still could see the A's finishing last, basically is what I'm trying to say, but I don't see the Angels finishing much more above that. I mean, Kyle Hendricks, they've gotten some really good starts and really hot starts to some offensive players, but I got to agree with Joe here. I don't buy this. I think Seattle is absolutely better than them. Texas Rangers definitely better as well. And then it just depends on, sort of how the division rounds out. All right, let's go down to waiver claims. My son is playing in a fantasy league for the first time this year, and he made a bunch of moves, and he's like, I'm done. I can't make any more moves. I've made my maximum this week. I'm like, wow, you're being penalized for making moves. Okay, that's fair. Joe, buy or sell? Leagues should limit the amount of waiver claims that each team can make per week. I mean, I don't think that this exists in the roto leagues. Probably it's just for head-to-head.
Yeah, it's for head-to-head, but more importantly, it's for these daily transaction leagues that you see where everyone's just streaming everybody and you're just trying to get as many possible points or as many possible categories filled as you can. I don't see the point in this because you're penalizing somebody from being an active owner. Plus, the more active they are, sometimes they're actually in a spot where they're dropping good talent back to the waiver wire for other people to pick up. So if you're paying attention, there's gamesmanship here. But to me, I don't think you should have a limitation on it. But I am not one of these lunatics that likes to play in the daily transaction leagues because I have several jobs. I have 2 children. I coach, and I don't have time for that kind of nonsense. I like to set it during the week, and then waivers run once, and then this is what you do, and you live and die by that. So I'm going to sell. If you get an opportunity to be in a daily transaction league, that means you're a lunatic. Let people be lunatics. Let them have fun. I mean, make as many claims as you want, for better or worse, Craig.
Yeah, I just think you have to know the expectations going into the beginning of the season and who's going to play hard and who's not going to play at all. But I think it's definitely a sell for me in roto leagues, but I could see a buy in the head-to-head leagues with points and things of that nature. So I'm actually going to buy this for head-to-head leagues because I don't want to see just a league being determined by who makes the most transactions. But I don't think I think my son's league is 6. I don't think that that's enough, for a week. I mean, look, with all these injuries happening, you got to make more. I would say maybe double. 6? That's it.
I'm in one that I am in one that has daily transactions because I have to because it's a company league and it drives me crazy. But it's 15 in the one I'm in.
Yeah, that's going to say double that. Yeah, double that
6.
is what I was going to say.
No.
Yeah. All right, let's go to Major League Baseball. One player struck out 225 batters or more last season, one pitcher. But a lot struck out 224. It was like right there in 220. So, Joe, we're going to go above last year. 4 pitchers or more will strike out 225 hitters this season. Again, only one did it last year, but let's give full context. If you look, a lot were very close last year as well.
Yeah, so last year you had Tariq Skubal with 228, you had Chris Sale with 225, and then Cease with 224, Wheeler with 224, and Reagans with 223. And that's not talking about Logan Gilbert, who was right there at 220, and Garrett Crochet, who only threw 146 innings. So I'm going to go with the over here. Guys continue to strike out at an alarming pace, so I'm going to buy that you're going to have a couple of these here. This is all about staying healthy, of course, but I think you've got half a dozen names that realistically could do that this year. And you know what? Don't look now, but Spencer Strider is only going to miss the first 2 weeks of the season, basically. So we might be able to throw him in that mix. Maybe. Again, he doesn't need a lot of innings to strike out 225 guys. Just saying.
Yeah. I'm going to sell this. Yeah, I'm going to sell this. Like, I think I could lock in Yamamoto of the Dodgers for striking out like 300, but maybe. But I'm going to sell. I'm betting against health in baseball. I hate the way that this has gone where it's velo or nothing. I hope we change that. All right, finally, buy or sell. The NL West will have 3 90-win teams. I would assume we're talking about the Dodgers. We're talking about the Diamondbacks. We're talking about the Giants, maybe? Buy or sell?
I'm going to sell. They didn't have 3 90-win teams last year. The Diamondbacks fell short of that by a win. I know they have Burns now. I just think it's going to get super competitive, and eventually they're going to have to play more teams in the East, and the East is really good. National League is just a superior league right now, in my opinion. So I'm going to sell on this one. I think you get 2, but not 3. One falls short.
Yeah, got to do the same thing here. We agreed too much on this one, but I will sell it. Probably have LA, and I'll go Arizona. LA and Arizona, not San Diego.
Look at you.
And fall short. Yeah, I'll go there. All right, we'll wrap it up next. Don't go away.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip? Try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
They won the game, and a lot of people, I think, are, prematurely writing them off. Like, I heard a lot of people say they're not even making the playoffs this year.
What I give them credit for right now, Scott, I'm not going to pencil them to win the division yet. Let's see how they do. What I give the Red Sox credit for, and this sounds like silly, I give them credit for actually trying this year.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Okay, what tools can you use to measure those things a bit? And that's where you have like force plates and 3D motion and launch monitors, things like that. But that's all just sort of like measuring what's happening. That doesn't necessarily explain why one guy's really good and another guy's not really good. And that's where there's still kind of like this ongoing, how do you like continue to do research to understand that better? And I think that's going to last well past my lifetime.
The Smiley Show.
We've got tee time coming up here at Augusta. About 10 minutes from now, they'll start to tee off for those players who just barely made the cut, and then the leaders, of course, later today. If you have been catching the Masters, you may have noticed that Hall of Famer Ken Griffey Jr. is now doubling as a photographer. He's not the only Hall of Famer that played for Seattle that has done this. If you may remember, Randy Johnson is also a photographer as well. But, Joe, here is my bigger question here. By the way, I want to state for the record that I'm okay with this. I don't care. But when they say it's such a big deal that Ken Griffey Jr. is a credentialed photographer, who is he credentialed for is my question. The Ken Griffey Jr. show? Like who is he? Know. Sam, I couldn't find any clarity on this. Like he's credentialed. Congrats. All right. So he's Ken Griffey Jr. He gets to go to the Masters. Yeah. Like who is he? Who's he shooting for?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but you make a good point there.
I get it. I understand. I mean, it's Ken Griffey Jr. I would do the same thing. I'm just saying it's good to be Ken Griffey Jr.
Well, that's Craig Mish, I know that name carries a lot of weight. I have thrown that out. Like if I can't get in a restaurant, I'll just drop that on there and I'll say, well, this table's for Craig Mish and a party of 5. And next thing you know, table opens up automatically. It's crazy.
No, it doesn't open up. They put a table actually on the floor for you.
Like Goodfellas. Yes, they bring it out there and put it right in front of Mel Torme. It's awesome.
Golf
Week is who he's credentialed for.
Golf Week. There we go. How did he get a job at Golf Week?
Well, he's probably working for free, so he doesn't need the cash. That's my guess.
I would say he's after making $400 million. I think yes, he's
done okay. Vlad Guerrero Jr. has now made more than his father for his career already, too, which is kind of stunning. Vlad Guerrero Jr. has now made more than his father's entire career.
500 million. Yeah, they had to do that.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to wrap up the show. Speaking of, sort of a breaking news story on Saturday, I'm going to give that to you, and Joe will too. We'll let Joe start. Here is his SportsGrid 60.
Well, the NFL draft is just a few days away now, and the Pittsburgh Steelers still don't have a starting quarterback. And no, friends, it's not Mason Rudolph. No, of course it isn't. It could be Aaron Rodgers, but why hasn't Aaron Rodgers signed yet with the Pittsburgh Steelers? He's been in meetings. He's been to the facility. He's hung out with Mike Tomlin. Who knows? Maybe they've even gone out and shot some golf together at some locations. But he hasn't signed yet. And the reason is he's holding the Steelers hostage. he doesn't want them to select a young quarterback. He is tired of having to groom the Jordan Loves or the Zach Wilsons, wherever the next guy up is potentially, and hear it, if he doesn't play well, that maybe they should move on to the young kid. So the hopes of drafting Jackson Dart, I think, are getting slighter and slighter, or Jalen Milroe late, probably not going to happen. And even if you did draft one of those young kids, do you really want him learning under the tree of Aaron Rodgers? Because those leaves are falling at an alarming rate. That's what's going on right now. So Steelers, I hate to break it to you right now, you're probably in for another 9 or 10 win season, maybe at the most. And then next thing you know, you're going to be out in the first round of the playoffs. And Mike Tomlin's starting to look a little bit more like Marvin Lewis these days when those playoff games come around. Craig?
Yeah, speaking of the NFL draft, one of the first names that's going to be called in next year's draft made a very big decision, apparently, in the last 24 hours. Pete Thamel is reporting that Nico Amaialeva, the quarterback at Tennessee, who's going to be a first-round pick without a doubt next year, didn't practice with the University of Tennessee the last 2 days. And the reason why is because he's leaving. He is going to be the highest paid NIL quarterback in college football history. It will be very interesting to see where he ends up going, because immediately that team is going to be favored to win the national championship next year. In this new world of NIL money, you have arguably one of the best quarterbacks in college. I mean, some people will debate others, and by the time the draft comes, who knows? But there's no question that this is one of the very best quarterbacks in college that is now going to completely change the landscape of college football by taking the most money ever for 1 year to play at a university coming up this fall. Crazy. That'll do it for the show. Thanks, Joe, for filling in. Really appreciate it. We'll talk to you again soon.
I appreciate all that NIL money you gave me before the show. It really makes a difference. And after the show, I'll call in, make us a reservation for lunch under the name Craig Mish, but lunch is on you, buddy. I'm just telling you.
All right. Cash App, Venmo, PayPal. We'll do that.
Now you're just saying things. You're just saying words now. That's it.
Zelle. MySpace. Thanks to Sam. He was our producer, allegedly. I'll see you next week for Fantasy Sports Today.
We all know nothing beats the energy of playing live roulette in a casino. But playing roulette online sure does have its perks. At the casino, you'll average 40 to 50 spins per hour. But online, you're looking at 100 to 150. The more spins, the more chance of wins. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Pages.
The game is on. The stakes are high. But the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that rim. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
Just a little flyer, couple of thoughts.
18.5 point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern.